Well, gang, Lane, Carolina Jackpot time coming at you on Friday evening. It's about 6 o'clock. Hope all is well with you. Had a little stint of 2 or 3 days here this past week where the weather actually was somewhat bearable. So that was nice. But back is the heat and humidity today. We were north of 90 degrees here in the upstate of South Kakalaki. You know, July, August, and really for the most part September in South Carolina, it's just like a old, it's like some kind of dirty animal with really, really sharp teeth and just has this old hot, nasty breath and just smells like it's been eating buttholes for a living. That's what the summer in South Carolina reminds me of. It just sucks. But we'll get through it one way or the other. I wanted to talk to you today about the South Carolina Gamecocks 2024 win total over at FanDuel Sports. Right now it's set at 5.5 for the over-under win total. And what surprises me a little bit, and it surprises me just based on everybody's opinion in the YouTube comment section, because everybody in the YouTube comment section is an expert on college football, if you didn't know that already. You know, predicting South Carolina to fall even further into abyss here in 2024. South Carolina's over 5.5 win total is juiced to the over right now, guys. You can go get it at FanDuel Sports at -134. That means if you bet, you know, $100 on it, and South Carolina wins over 5.5 games, meaning they win 6 games or more in the regular season, you're not going to make more than $100. You're going to make less than $100. Maybe that comes out to about $70 maybe. The under is actually plus money. Is at plus 110. So if you bet $100, you're going to make $110 if they win 5 games or less. So that kind of contrasts with what everybody out there is saying. And I'm just kind of got to look at things, and you know, I've already done my season preview on them, and you know, if you didn't watch that, I'm gonna link it down in the description box below in case you didn't see it. I've been really derelict in my duties. I gotta lie to you this summer on doing these pick and prediction videos. At this point right now, it's almost pointless to do them. I was able to get, I think, 4 of them knocked out, maybe, well, 5 if you want to count the drunken fun time that we had the other Friday night doing Colorado's on a live stream. That was pretty cool. Might need to do that again soon. Maybe tonight. Hell, I don't know. For another team. But I had picked 6 wins, and those 6 wins were the non-conference games except for Clemson, Vanderbilt, and I picked them to beat Texas A&M and LSU at home. Those 2 games would be considered upsets right now, as it lies where those teams are right now. Who knows what Texas A&M is going to be by the time South Carolina plays them? I think they'll be pretty decent. But they got a quarterback who's been injured a lot throughout his college career. The odds are pretty good that he may be injured again this year by the time South Carolina plays them. So that would make a significant difference in the way that game is perceived. The LSU game at home, South Carolina's going to be an underdog regardless. I mean, if South Carolina starts 2-0 against Old Dominion and Kentucky, and LSU loses to Southern Cal, and then I don't know, whatever tomato can they play in week 2 they beat, they're still going to be an underdog. Now, it doesn't matter. So that one is pretty much guaranteed that it's going to be an upset if you win it. And I'm just wondering where these people in Las Vegas are putting their money where their mouth is. Well, maybe not where their mouth is. They just bet games. I'm wondering where they're figuring South Carolina is going to win games 5 and 6. That they're willing to lay some money down for it. Now, I think this -134, I think that's down just a little bit. If I'm not mistaken, it was at like -140 a couple of days ago when I checked it. So maybe some money has come in on the under for South Carolina, but it's not enough to make a whole heck of a lot of difference. I'm thinking that most of those people probably think South Carolina is going to win those 3 games. Those 3 games, let me refer to them being Akron, Wofford, Old Dominion, and then win the game at Vanderbilt. So that's 4. I'm thinking these folks probably think South Carolina is going to beat Kentucky and beat, most likely, Texas A&M. It just seems to be the most logical of the home games. The good thing about this thing is you got 2 of these games against teams that I call like up and comers in the SEC. And I know they up and came last year, but they haven't. Those 2 being Ole Miss and Mizzou, but they haven't really sustained anything yet. Now, a lot of people are thinking Mizzou is going to take a step back this year on the defensive side of the football, not just because they lost Blake Baker, their defensive coordinator, because they lost a lot of talent, especially on the back end of that defense. Chris Abrams drained his NFL draft pick, and then you had several other guys that they lost also, and 2, in addition to that as well, who were mainstays on that defense. I don't know. Can Mizzou, offensively, Mizzou's going to be really, really good. And their schedule is pretty weak. So is that weak schedule coupled with an experienced quarterback, a wide receiver who's going to go in the first round and play on Sundays, a couple of more wide receivers who are really underrated, is that going to be enough to, get this team to the same level of wins that it had last year? I don't know. I don't know that they have as many quality wins this year as what they had last year. We'll have to see on that. I really just don't think there's a lot of people thinking that South Carolina could upset Mizzou. I really think that hinges on that Kentucky game and Texas A&M. And just because Texas A&M is so much of an unknown, we know they have a lot of talent there. We know that Mike Elko is a pretty good coach, right? Pretty good coach. I mean, the stuff he did at Duke was a shithole when he took over it. David Cutcliffe had let that program kind of go the last few years he was there, and Elko turned it around, lickety-split. And, I mean, at a place like Duke, that's no small accomplishment. Or, excuse me, that's no, what am I trying to say? Yeah, that's no small accomplishment. That was, stop acting like I didn't say that, okay? I'm tired. I worked a long day. That's a big deal at Duke, to be able to turn something around that quickly. And he brought some good players in there as well. Of course, none of them's there now. They all left. They being Riley Leonard, running back Jordan Waters. These guys transferred out. So with the kind of resources that he's going to have at Texas A&M, and the kind of talent that he's going to be able to wrap himself around there, I mean, the sky could be the limit for this dude, right? I mean, you're talking, this is dark horse, and it would be a dark horse, playoff type contender. I don't think they're going to make it year 1, but I think they will sooner than later. Oklahoma, do some of these people, are they thinking South Carolina's going to go on the road and strike the upset? I just don't know. South Carolina has been a team that's played much better at home than it has on the road. I mean, even against teams like Vanderbilt, there have been a couple of games here against Vanderbilt recently where South Carolina on the road and it didn't play that well. And the last time I went up to Vanderbilt, that was 2022, the last time we played them. And I think South Carolina ended up winning that game by 11 points. We gave them up a late touchdown, but the game was tight in the first half. We went on the road to East Carolina like 3 years ago, like Shane Beamer's second game there. That game was so fucking tight, man. I thought we were going to lose that game. I know a lot of y'all watched it on TV and were laughing at me because I was making updates from it. There's no excuse for that. I mean, teams that shouldn't be within 3 touchdowns of you struggle with on the road. And then you get blown out by a really good team. Case in point, Mizzou last year. Case in point, Texas A&M last year. I mean, just teams that you should be even with or close to even with, you get bodied by when you play on the road. So they're not a good road team. So I really don't, I'm not sold on South Carolina winning at Kentucky this year. I know we did it a few years ago. I mean, that was kind of an anomaly. That's not what normally happens when South Carolina goes on the road. If South Carolina turns a corner and starts performing like a team that they should be year in and year out, then yeah, that wouldn't be that big of a surprise. So Las Vegas thinks, bottom line, that South Carolina is going 6-6 or better. And there's not a lot of time left before the season starts to change things. Now, I mean, if we have an injury to Rocket Sanders, and well, I got to knock on glass because I mean wood to knock on here in this truck. I mean, if Rocket Sanders gets hurt in fall camp, if Lenore Sellers gets hurt, I mean, those are things that, I mean, if a one offensive lineman gets hurt, I mean, I don't think that's going to make any kind of a difference in terms of betting odds, because the offensive line was a shithole last year. They're banking on it's going to be improved just off of some experience. So I don't really know that makes a big difference, but Rocket Sanders and Lenore Sellers probably the two dudes they're looking at, and then maybe one of your big studs over on defense, maybe a Nick Emenwari or a Debo Williams, probably the two best players on that defense right now, who anyone would know that's not a South Carolina Gamecock fan. If one of those guys were to get injured, maybe that would sway things just a little bit. But let me know down in the description box below, where do you think that these people are thinking? What's their line of thinking? What are they looking at here? You know, I picked up a magazine. Well, I didn't pick it up. I actually ordered it Sunday, and it got here yesterday, and I spent like an hour and a half when I got home from work yesterday just looking at this magazine. I don't know if any of you have ever gotten it, but if you haven't, I'm going to show it to you next time I do a video here at the house. Pick Six Previews is what it's called, by some guy, Brett. His last name starts with a C. I can't pronounce it, but I mean, he breaks this shit down too, sort of like what Phil Steele does, but kind of it's more of a condensed version. It's kind of old school too. It's got like the spiral spine for it, like your spiral notebook. So it's kind of old school, and it's kind of simply done. In other words, there's no pictures in this magazine. It's only facts and data. And he has some different metrics that he uses to rate coaches, to rate teams. And I was looking at a really harrowing stat about South Carolina, and it's kind of a quality versus recruiting, quality wins versus recruiting type stat. Anyway, what he does is he's taken the trends, I think, from 2015 all the way through 2023, and he kind of analyzes these teams' recruiting classes for all those years and kind of puts that in one bucket, and then he puts your wins in another bucket and kind of comes up with a way to grade you on how well you develop your talent based on that. And South Carolina ranked out, there's 70 Power 5 teams, and that's the only teams that he ranks in the metrics that he uses. Now, he does have a non-Power 4 section in the back of his book, but it's nowhere near as detailed as the Power 4 section is. But there's 70 Power 4 teams. South Carolina rates near the bottom in that stat. I mean, they're in the 60s. Vanderbilt comes in at number 70. I believe they're all the way at the very bottom. But nobody else in the SEC, everybody else in the SEC is higher than South Carolina, except for Vanderbilt in that stat. So that's pretty scary. And what it tells me is South Carolina has recruited pretty well since 2015. That encompasses 1 year. Well, it encompasses the Muschamp years and the Shane Beamer years. They've recruited pretty well. The only year that they had a recruiting class that just fell off the rails was the 2021 class. After Muschamp was let go, most of the kids that had already committed to the program ended up not committing, or they went elsewhere because they had committed to Muschamp, so I guess they didn't want to play for Beamer or didn't know anything about him, and that was a tough one. We finished, I don't even remember what the rank was that year, but the other years it's been pretty good. I mean, it's been pretty decent for South Carolina. It's been lower level in the SEC, but let's just face reality, it's going to be when you are going up against some of the recruiting giants that we recruit against every year. But it was a mind-numbing step. It let me know South Carolina has not been developing talent under two different head coaching regimes and their staffers, who have obviously those have changed a lot more than what the head coach has. But the number one team in that metric, I believe, I think I'm right in saying this, I believe was Cincinnati. Yeah, Cincinnati was the number one team. Kansas State was up there. Utah was up there. You could expect those teams to be there. I think Kentucky was pretty high up there. So that's a good magazine. If you could pick one up, he got it to me in like 3 days. If you could go on Pick 6 Previews on Twitter, just look it up, Pick 6 Previews, and you can order a magazine right there. It cost me like $35. That was with the shipping and everything, because they ship it post office priority mail, so you'll get it quick. But definitely, I think is going to be worth the money. And he had all the position groups for each team broken down and rated by conference. And like Phil Steele does the same thing with like their individual groups. And it's really weird. Like South Carolina's offensive line, he still rates as number 15 in the SEC. They're below Vanderbilt, but their running back room he rates as number 2. And I'm like, well, that can't be. I'm like, your running backs wouldn't be number 2 if your offensive line is number 50. Well, I think, well, no, we're not talking about these going hand in hand with each other and working like gears in a machine. He's talking about individual group units just in a vacuum. So it's some really interesting shit. Anyway, I would recommend that. Let me know in the description box below anything else you want to talk about. And, where do you think the South Carolina Gamecocks are getting their wins 5 and 6 from? Because according to Las Vegas and the people who are in the know that do this for a living, they are. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. I appreciate it. I'm sorry this has been a very long video, but, when I get excited about talking about the Gamecocks, it just kind of, I'll let time get away from me. But anyway, also in the link description box below, Calloways College Football Pick'em Challenge. Got a lot of folks in there, and I'm going to do a video here in a couple of days promoting that once again. I'm going to needle the hell out of you till y'all get in this dang contest. I'm telling you what, if you subscribe to this channel, you should be in this contest. All right, so we should have 12,500 people in this Calloways College Football Pick'em Challenge. Can you imagine that damn pot? Ooh, doggy. Anyway, I'll see you guys later on. I appreciate you. Peace, and I'm out of here. And as always, go Gamecocks.